Okay, folks, in this series of videos, starting off with the brush tool video, we're going to be covering all of the brush tools, starting from the healing brush and ending with the burn tool or smudge tool down here. Okay, so all of these brushes in between. Now, I will jump around. In this particular video, we're going to start with the brush tool here, but I'm going to briefly explain now all of the tools that we will cover in the next few videos. First off is the spot healing brush and healing brush tools. Now, we will not cover every single tool that there is, only because of time constraints. I will only show you folks tools that you folks may use in your movie poster project. If we took the time to learn all of the rest of the tools, it would take a lot longer than 5 weeks. So, in the interest of saving time, I will only show you some of the real basic brush tools, or any of the other tools for that matter. Okay, so healing brush, spot healing brush. The rest you folks can learn on your own. Brush tool, we'll learn that, and the rest you folks can learn on your own. Clone stamp tool, we will not be learning either of these brushes. The eraser tool, and maybe even the background eraser tool, I'm still deciding on that. The gradient tool and paint bucket tool, I will show you folks in the next series of videos that cover the tools down here. This particular tool isn't really a brush, so I want to stick with the brushes for now. So we'll cover that at a later time. I will show you folks all of these: blur, sharpen, and smudge. And the last set of tools is the dodge, burn, and sponge. So that covers, with the exception of the gradient and the art history, that covers all of the brushes that we will cover in the next few videos, starting with the brush tool. So I will jump around from time to time. So instead of starting off with the healing brush, I'm going to start off with the regular brush tool, only because this is probably one of the main tools that you may or may not use, but definitely if you folks are thinking down the road that you folks want to get into digital painting, this is the tool that the digital painters use. So it's a widely used tool in Photoshop. So let's start off by creating a document, going up to File, New, and then from the New Document window, I'm going to create a document that is 10 inches in width, 15 inches in height, with a resolution of 72, if you folks are interested in following along. So from the drop-down menu, if you have pixel selected, make sure you change it to inches, 10 inches width, 15 inches height, resolution 72. Now, incidentally, these are the dimensions that you folks will use for your movie poster. Okay, 10 inches wide, 15 inches height, resolution 72. Click Create. So here we have a blank document or blank canvas. Okay, now I'm going to show you folks something really quick as a side note. If after you create your document you wanted to change the orientation, right now it is in portrait orientation, where the longer side is going up and down, and you wanted to change it to landscape orientation, going left to right, you folks can do that by coming up to Image in the menu bar, down to Image Rotation, and then you can choose any of these options. But to change it to landscape, you're going to use either counterclockwise or clockwise, 90 degrees. Let's go with clockwise. And that's how you change the canvas orientation. If you wanted to change it back, come up to Image again, Image Rotation, And the opposite of 90 degrees clockwise, of course, 90 degrees counterclockwise. And it brings it back up. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at 90 degrees clockwise. Let me zoom in with a command plus on my keyboard. Okay, so the brush tool. Now, with the brush tool activated here in my toolbar, you'll notice the options for the brush tool here. Now we will cover 3 segments of the tool options: the size of the brush, the mode, and the opacity. Okay, and flow. Flow and opacity go together, so that's pretty much one segment. So opacity, flow, mode, and brush size. We won't be covering any of these other items. These are the basic functions of your brush. Starting off with the size. Now, in order to change the size, there's multiple ways. Click on this arrow. Don't worry about any of these other items for now. Okay, none of these in here. All you need to worry about is these 2 options, size and hardness. Of course, size is measured in pixels, hardness in percentage. You can change the size by using the slider. You can manually type in a size, or by hovering over the word size, you'll notice my cursor changes. Now, if I hold down the left mouse button and drag left or right, up or down, left or right, it changes the slider in size. Now, correspondingly, if you look at my cursor, let's put the cursor down to 6. This is the size of the 6 pixel brush cursor. If we up it to 57, this is the size of the cursor. Let's go up to 200. You notice every time the pixel size gets bigger, so does your cursor. Let's put this down to around 5 or so. Now, on the keyboard, if you want to change pixel size, you have a left bracket key and a right bracket key. It's located next to the P key, P for Pikachu. Okay, so the left bracket key that looks like this, that makes your brush cursor smaller. The right bracket key makes your brush bigger. So let's go with the right bracket key. I'm tapping my right bracket key now. It's making my brush bigger. Now, as I tap on the right bracket key, watch the number up here. It gets bigger as well, correspondingly. Now, hitting the left bracket key will, of course, make my cursor smaller. Now, changing the size of the brush does not change the hardness. That you have to manually change on your own. Okay, so let me show you right now the different sizes and how they look like. So generally a size of 1 pixel to about 10. Let me type that in. Will give you more or less anywhere from a fine tip pencil, like a lead pencil size stroke, upward to 10 pixel stroke, which is this. Let me up the flow here. So let's go through the different sizes right now. Let's start off with 1, which you probably will barely see. Yeah, so that's like a lead pencil. Let's go up to about 3. By the way, if you folks are wondering how I'm getting the straight line by using a mouse, I'm holding down the shift key as I draw. So, hold down your shift key and make a stroke. That's how you get a perfect straight line. So that's a 5-pixel stroke. And let's go with 10. Hold on the shift key. So that's a different stroke lines. Of course, once you start getting up into larger numbers like 50, you'll notice a huge difference. Let's go with 100. And so on and so forth. Okay, so that's size. Let me hit Command Z to undo, Control Z on PC. Start off with 1 again, 1 pixel, but this time instead of the hardness being 100, we're going to start off with 0. And you're not going to notice really that much of a difference, or you shouldn't. Okay, looks pretty standard. Going to go up to 5, jump up to 5 now, 5 pixel. Still can't really tell the difference too much. Let's go up to 10. Now you start to see a difference. And the difference is, if you're looking at the edge of the stroke, the lines are softer because the hardness is all the way down to 0. Let's jump to 50. Now you really can see the difference, right? And finally 100. So basically, once you start getting this big, it's almost as if you're using like a airbrush tool. Really soft edges as compared. So that's 100 stroke, 100 size stroke line with a hardness of 0. Now if I switch that hardness to 100, you'll notice the difference. So 100 size brush, hardness at 0, 100 size brush, hardness at 100. So now you can see the relationship between these two settings and how different a result you could get from the same size but different hardness. Okay, let me Command Z out of that, undo. Next thing I want to cover is opacity. So I'm going to skip over mode and go to opacity and flow. I don't really use flow all that much. So in actuality, you know what? You folks don't have to worry about that much. Flow only when you're using probably like a stylus with a digital pad, if you're drawing with that. But if you folks are using the mouse, which most of you folks probably will be, opacity is the only thing you have to really worry about. And don't worry about this icon here, just the opacity. And just like these settings, size and hardness, you can change the opacity with this slider by clicking this arrow here, sliding this. You can manually type in a number by clicking here in the box, or you can hover above the name and left mouse click and drag to change the opacity. So let's change the size of the brush to 50. And remember, you folks can always use the bracket keys, left and right bracket, to change the size of your brush. So I'm going to draw a line. So remember, the hardness is at 100, size is at 50, opacity at 100. Okay. Now I'm going to leave the size settings the same, but just change the opacity down to 75. Draw out a line. You notice it became lighter. Let's go down to 50% opacity. Draw out another line. So it's progressively getting lighter. or you can see through. That's basically what opacity means, how much you can see through the object. So at 100%, you cannot see through the object at all. And with each percentage downwards towards 0, you can see more through the object the lower the number is. Let's go to 10%. And I'll stop right there. 0% means the object is basically invisible. Okay? So that's what opacity does with your brush tool. Okay? Now for the mode, it's kind of hard to show you folks mode without having colors involved. So I'll save mode for a later time. But since I am showing you the brush tool, let me add on a little bit of color, showing you folks how to incorporate color with your brush so that you're just not painting with black or white. So let me undo that. Now I'll go over this a little bit later again, but for now, if you folks are using your brush tool, you'll notice these colors down here on your toolbar. You have the black and white tool. Now the top color, which right now is black, is called the foreground color. The white box in the back is called the background color. You can swap the colors back and forth by clicking on this icon, which is something like a color switcher. Clicking on this will swap the colors back and forth. So regardless of how many times you switch it, all it'll do is alternate these colors back and forth. So if you want the white as the foreground and the black as the background, click on that. Okay. And if you want the hotkey for that, the hotkey is X on the keyboard, and it's the same for both Mac and PC. So just the X key, no other key. That'll switch it back and forth as well, hitting X. This icon here to the left of the color switcher is default colors. You notice it's basically a smaller picture of this. The default colors for Photoshop is black and white. So if these two colors change and you want it to get back to default, you just click on this icon here and it'll switch it back to this. Now, if you want to change the colors that are in these two boxes, there's a couple of ways you guys can do that. One way is to come up to your swatches panel. You don't have to have your move tool enacted. I'm just doing that so you folks can see my cursor a little bit better. If I had the brushes tool active, it's kind of hard to see with the thin line representing the brush. So that's why I'm switching to the move tool right now. It's just so you can see my cursor better. But you can switch or choose colors with any of the tools active. So say if I wanted to change the black to a different color, I could come up to swatches here, and you notice my cursor changes from the arrow to the eyedropper. Okay, and depending on what color I click on, let's go with this one right here, it changes the color to whatever I click on. So if I go for the green next, it changes the green correspondingly. Now if I want to change the background color, I have to manually swap the colors by clicking here or hitting X on the keyboard to bring white to the top. Then I can switch the color like so. And then if I wanted to switch again, click the color switcher icon or hit X. Another way to change color is to click on any of these colors here. So if I want to switch to foreground color, which is currently green, just click on it and you bring up what is called the color picker. You notice it's color picker foreground color. Let me hit cancel, quick one. If I clicked on the back box, I get the color picker background color. So you can use the swatches to change the colors, but you have to do the extra step of, manually swapping the colors this way. So if you want a faster way of changing colors, just click on the box. That way you can change by clicking on either the background box or the foreground box. So let's go with the foreground first. All right. In this box here, you change the shade of the color. In the rainbow box, you change the actual color. So as you can see, we have two colors, or actually it's one color right now because of where the cursor is, tucked all the way up there in the upper right hand corner. So our current color is represented here as well as here. But if I move this cursor anywhere in this box, the top new color will change. Let me demonstrate. So if I click once here, whatever is on the inside of that circle is represented here. This is the current color. This will become the new color once I click on OK. So the current color represented here and here will stay that color until I hit OK to accept the new color. Okay? So if I click here, whatever is on the inside of that circle is represented here and will become the new color once I hit OK. As you can see, current, and here's the new color or current color. And I can change to the new color by clicking around here, and you'll see the change occur here. I can also hold down my left mouse button and drag it around, and you'll get more of a real time. If you keep your eye on here while I drag the mouse around, you get a real-time change in colors. Okay, so you can do that. Hold down your left mouse button and just drag around. And when you are ready to accept the color, hit OK, and the current will change to the new color. Now if you want to change the actual color itself instead of the shade, you can either click anywhere in the box here and that'll change the color, or you can grab the arrows here on the side and slide. But I find it to be quicker just to click in the middle of the area or color I want to change. So this box here, so I'm left mouse clicking and dragging right now in the middle. This changes the color. This box changes the shade of the color. So let's go with red. So if you wanted pink, you could take this cursor here and go all the way here, and you get like a salmon color. Salmon? How did I say it? Salmon? Salmon color. You can get pinkish, red, maroon, dark red, and everything in between. If you wanted to switch to like a lighter blue, you get standard light blue, real baby light blue, all the way down to, what would this color be here in a new color? Teal? No, that's like a navy blue, yeah? So you change the shade of the color in this box and the actual color itself in this box. And if you leave the picker, the color picker here in the same spot, but you just change the slider here, you'll see the same shade for every different color. So if you wanted to see kind of the mid color of every color, So not 100% green, not 100% dark green, but right smack dab in the middle. You leave your cursor there and you could change the color and you can see the same shade for each of the color, as you can see here in the new. Okay, if you wanted the brightest version of that, put the cursor all the way up in upper right hand corner, move your slider all the way through. Okay, so that's how you change colors for both your foreground, and if you click on your background color, you can change the color as well. Now if you ever get tired of those colors, you want to go back to default, remember you can click on this icon here or hit D on your keyboard for default. Okay, so that's colors. And going back to your brush, you can always change the color and paint with your new color. Now the opacity is at 10, so I got this lighter color. Sometimes you can change the shade of the color by using opacity. So either you do it manually by selecting a color like down here and then clicking OK, or you could change the opacity to achieve pretty much the same look. So if I crank the opacity up to 100, you get that. 50 or so, you get that. And one other note, if you do have anything other than 100, if you keep going over the same line, it looks like nothing changes. But if you have a very low opacity and you keep placing strokes over each other, you'll build up almost like watercolor. So let me demonstrate. Opacity is at 10%. I'm going to make a straight line. Now I'm going to go over that line again once more. One more time. You notice every time I add a line at 10% opacity, so this is 10% opacity. If I keep going over the same line, it's like I'm adding 10% every time. If I keep going, eventually I get it as dark, although it looks like it's taking more than 10 strokes if it was adding 10% at each time. But I get it pretty much as dark as that. So if you really want to, create a stroke as this dark, crank it up to 100 to do it fast. But for those digital painters out there, they may want to add layers to achieve this type of effect. So that's why you have a lot of control with opacity. I was going to show you folks mode, but I'll show you folks mode at a later time. For now, just know how you can change colors. One other thing, while you have your brush tool activated, you can hold down the Option key or Alt if you're on a PC. While holding down that key, Option or Alt, if you can take in any color on your screen by clicking on it. But remember, hold down Option or Alt. So say, for example, if I wanted to take the green off of the expand key here, clicked on that. Oh, I guess it didn't work. I thought it would work. Let me try to bring up my background or my desktop here. So if I hold down Alt or Option, come out here and click on this. It's supposed to work. Let me see. Well, in the past, it used to work. So I'm guessing it doesn't anymore. In any case, I guess disregard that little piece for right now. Um, but you can change colors within your document. So if you already have red, you want to change to red while you're painting, and then you want to change quickly to another color, you can hold down your Alt or Option key, click on that, and then hold down Alt or Option, click on red to go back again. So you can quickly switch between colors using existing colors already on your canvas area. Okay, folks, so that's pretty much it for the brush tool for now. Now, I didn't cover every single thing for the brush tool. I may make another video for the brush tool a little bit later after I go through all the tools. There are some special effects that I wanted to show you folks, or you folks can look, you folks can explore on your own. And that would be if you have the brush, extra brush palette here on the side. Remember, to get the brush palette, you go up to Window, Brushes or Brush Settings, and that opens up the brush settings here. Now these items are really advanced, but you folks can fool around. You got the size and hardness here, spacing, and it gives you a little representation of what that looks like. You can always reset your brush settings if you get too crazy with experimenting. To reset your settings, click on the three line button here, and from the pop-out menu, reset or clear brush controls. Okay, clear brush controls and reset all lock settings should reset the settings back to default. In any case, I may make another video to show you folks the special effects you can get from these at a later time. For now, that's it for the brush tool. In our next video, I will show you folks the eraser tool. Okay, so